it has a big impact on share of sales and on lien holders and foreclosing plaintiffs.
The Weekly Friedman, your source for the most essential information in the default industry. With your host, Adam Friedman.
Today I'm joined by Friedman Vartolo partner, Catherine Aponte. Kat, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Doing pretty good, thank you. We're going to be jumping back into the Community Wealth Preservation Program. We'll be discussing some of the recent trends and possibly some developments within the statute. So Kat, the CWPP was initially passed in January 2024, is that right?
Yeah, January 12th.
So it's been just over a year.
A little bit.
Everyone was going crazy when this thing first came out, right?
It was a big shock to everyone in the industry.
Do you think that the reaction was warranted? Do you think it had as big of an impact as it felt like it would when it first was passed?
Yes, there is a sense that there were prior iterations of the bill that hadn't been passed, but the version that ended up being passed was just as shocking as prior iterations. So it has a big impact on share of sales and on lien holders and foreclosing plaintiffs.
To remind our audience, right, what was the biggest impact?
The creation of the right of refusal, the first and the second right, which allows certain parties to purchase the property at an upset price.
And what does that mean? So purchasing at an upset price, are they just buying it at the sale?
So upset price could mean as high as the amount of the final judgment that is owed to the foreclosing plaintiff. However, the upset price as envisioned by the bill is the lowest amount that the foreclosing plaintiff would like to purchase the property at the share of sale.
So it's been 13 months. Has anything changed? Like, is it being applied exactly the same way? Are there any new loopholes or developments we should be aware of?
So I would say the new development that's occurred recently is in application of the bill, what loans or what properties are subject to the bill.
What would make a loan not subject to or possibly not subject to the bill?
Sure. So the bill specifically defines residential properties. And I think it'd be a good point to step back and say that the Community Wealth Preservation Program falls under the Fair Foreclosure Act in New Jersey, which also has particular definitions for what constitutes a residential property.
Okay, so are you saying it only applies to residential properties?
It applies to residential properties. However, a residential property as defined under the bill would exempt out any loan that was taken for business purposes, even if the underlying property itself is residential in nature. So if it's zoned as residential by your town, that doesn't mean that the loan taken out for that property was residential in use.
But the property might be residential, but the loan might not be.
Exactly.
Well, this is potentially a big deal, right? Because anybody working in this industry knows that business purpose loans have been exploding over the past couple of years. Are you saying this bill does not apply to a business purpose loan?
It should not apply to a business purpose
Are
loan.
sheriffs applying it to a business purpose loan?
So right now there is one county that would like to apply this to a business purpose loan.
I mean, that's problematic if the statute is contrary to their assertion.
It would be problematic because if the sheriff is right in their claimed understanding of the bill, then more loans than what otherwise have been will be affected by the legislation.
So in all the other counties, right, are the sheriffs not applying this bill to commercial properties, to business purpose loans?
Yes.
Now, the county in question, is this a recent development?
This is a recent development.
So they were not applying it to commercial loans, and now they've made a change.
Well, I can't say that for sure. What I could say is that it hasn't come up before. They haven't made this assertion in the past. So At this point in time, they've noticed it, and they are trying to say that business purpose loan, if the underlying property is owned as residential by the town, then the bill applies.
So what will happen now? Is there litigation ongoing?
So we'll challenge in the courts the interpretation of the bill and see whose definition or whose application of the definition will prevail at the end of the day.
It can have a big impact, right? Because if that challenge is unsuccessful, then this can be applied to all business purpose loans.
Yes.
So the CWPP was probably the biggest thing to happen in the New Jersey default industry in the last couple of years. So I definitely appreciate you coming on and kind of explaining some of the more recent developments and keeping our audience informed.
Thanks. Happy to talk.
Thanks for joining Catherine Aponte and I on the Weekly Friedman, your source for the most essential information in the default industry. Thanks for tuning in, and see you next time.